Russian prison officials say the top Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has been transferred from a prison to a hospital. This comes after Navalny's aide said that his life was hanging in the balance as he continued his hunger strike. Navalny was arrested in January in order to serve 2.5 years in prison. Russian officials say he violated a suspended sentence by traveling to Germany to recover from nerve agent poisoning. Navalny's aides have called for mass demonstrations across Russia this week. NBC News reporter Matt Bodner joins us now from Moscow. So, Matt, Navalny started his hunger strike nearly 3 weeks ago, saying that he has been denied adequate medical care. What can you tell us about this developing news that he's been moved to a hospital?
Good morning, Joe. The short answer is not as much as I would like. Basically, all of the information that we've been getting these past weeks and months since Navalny went into custody is from his lawyers. We get very little from any other information source. And the last time his lawyers saw him was going on 3 days ago now. And so all we really have is this prison statement saying that he's been transferred to a hospital set aside for prisoners in the region. And that they've assessed his health as satisfactory and that he's getting a checkup every day from a general practitioner. But one of the really interesting things that we saw in this statement was that they said with Navalny's consent, he has been prescribed a vitamin therapy with really no explanation of what specifically that means or how it's impacting his health for better or worse, considering that it's been 2 to 3 days since the last time his lawyers saw him. That's a big question. Now, what we don't know as well is the lawyers were scheduled to visit Navalny at the colony today, but given his transfer, it's still not clear that they're going to see him at the hospital. So we're just at this point waiting for that next information drop.
Matt, we know the Biden administration announced those sanctions against Russia last week, citing 2020 election interference and a cyber attack. What's the White House saying about Navalny's worsening condition?
Well, they seem to be reacting pretty quickly to these statements over the weekend from Navalny's people that essentially Navalny is hanging on by a thread now. And yesterday we saw Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, just come out and say it, that Russia will face consequences if he dies, since the Russian government is responsible for his well-being. And, well, I believe we have a clip of that, so let's take a listen.
We have communicated to the Russian government that what happens to Mr. Navalny in their custody is their responsibility, and they will be held accountable by the international community. In terms of the specific measures that we would undertake, we are looking at a variety of different costs that we would impose. And I'm not going to telegraph that publicly at this point, but we have communicated that there will be consequences if Mr. Navalny dies.
Now, the EU this morning is starting to catch up a little bit to those statements, though not as harshly worded. But we are expecting at some point today an EU foreign ministers meeting where this is going to be a significant talking point.
And Matt, Navalny's allies are calling for protests on Wednesday. Now, back in January, thousands of people are arrested for taking to the streets to call for his release. What should we expect to see this week, and how might his hospitalization impact these planned protests?
Well, I think just the way that this is being billed and set up by Navalny's people, at least they are expecting or hoping for a major turnout to send a major message. So it's important to rewind a little bit back to those February protests. They were the largest that we'd seen here in Russia in at least a decade and had some notable firsts in police violence as well. And after that second protest, Leonid Volkov, Navalny's right-hand man, came out and said that, look, we could keep doing this every weekend, but all we're going to accomplish is getting more of our supporters arrested or beaten by the cops. And so they refrained from doing that. They decided that they were going to try out some other forms of demonstrations, but that protests would resume at some point. Now, they started teasing this resumption of protests a few weeks ago, saying that the time has come for another demonstration, but they wanted to see what kind of support they'll get. So they set up a website and said, look, just kind of raise your hand if you're willing to come out on the streets again. And when we hit 500,000 signatures nationwide, we'll declare the dates. But yesterday, Volkov said that Navalny can't wait any longer. They have to make their move. Wednesday night it is, and they've got 450,000 signatures across the country. So it seems like it could be a bit of an event.
Now, lots of developments this morning. We know you'll stay on top of it this week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.